It's kind of like Mojo Rawley's face paint. It's like the Ultimate Warrior. He's getting ready backstage, and he did a bunch of meth and coke at the same time, but gave up for like 5 seconds, and he's like, "All right, I'm fine with this." It's like Mojo Rawley just totally half-assed his makeup.
Mojo Rawley's face paint looks like if they tried to reboot Glacier, and this is their idea. Like, this is the face paint idea they had for it.
Mojo Rawley's face paint is like those couple times Tatanka would decide to wear Indian paint for no reason, but it looked like he ran into one of those like sliding door windows beforehand, and he didn't know it was closed, and it got smushed.
Yeah, that's about right.
You gotta keep it going. Mojo Rawley's face paint, so much like... Oh my. Is that the oddest way to ever segue in an episode?
I think Mojo Rawley's face paint is probably a discussion that no one has ever had in their life until now.
I feel like even in the meeting with like Vince and Triple H, like, all right, this is what we're gonna do with you. It was like a 5-minute meeting. Like, throw a little paint on, fuck it. Kids will like it. We gotta sell action figures. I don't know. I don't even know
anyone who's seeing Mojo Rawley in stores and seeing his action figure and just like, yeah, fuck it, that's the next thing I need to spend $20 on.
I don't even see him on the show, let alone in a Kmart to purchase a figure.
He doesn't show up very often.
Speaking of that, Colin, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Man, real life calls scheduled. Plans change. That's just how it goes. Both of us going through life, going through the ringer. My back is completely screwed up. We were supposed to record last night, and I was legit like Iron Sheik walking all day, and I couldn't live my life how I want to do. I was like, man, you gotta let me recharge the batteries. You gotta let me do it. I'm glad I did because I feel a hell of a lot better tonight. Sciatic nerves are scary, and so are botched power slams from Cody Rhodes. We'll get to all that, but man, welcome back. What's going on, my man, Colin? Where can everyone catch you? The alternative is in full force.
Oh yeah, we're back. We're better than ever. Yeah, it's good to be back. Last time we were gonna do an episode, duty called, couldn't make it happen. But yeah, we got shout out to Logan and Drew covering for me. I'm so good. I'm so good at what I do. You needed 2 people to cover for how great I am, so I'm sincerely flattered.
I knew something was coming.
I have to MJF my way into some of this shit, man. You know how it goes. But yeah, it's good to be back recording the Alternative Podcast. As always, you can check me out on Twitter at UberTieGuy. You can see my fantastic Post Malone impersonation going on right now. Yes, it's where you can find me on the internet. What about you, Travis? What have you been up to?
Really, you're not going to tell him about the jacket. Go ahead. I'm so shocked you didn't bring it up, honestly.
See, that was going to be my original intro, but I spaced it. See, this is why I'm not as good as MJF, but I'm still as good that you need 2 people to cover for me. Anyway,
it's why you're a protege. It's why you're a protege, not a pro.
Exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, no, I've been. I took a little vacation to back to where I live in Bakersfield for a couple days last week. It's why I couldn't do the show. And I was in Target. I was just looking around, and I needed something for a concert I was going to. It was like a country type thing, so I needed something that vaguely made me look that way. And I saw just the most perfect jacket, and it's basically an exact replica of what Orange Cassidy wears every time he wrestles.
Mark! What a mark! Sorry.
I was waiting for that one. I bought it because I wanted one, and I think it looks good on me. I just happen to look like Orange Cassidy while I wear it. There's a difference. I didn't buy it because of Orange Cassidy. I bought it, and then I looked like Orange Cassidy.
Colin, it's bad enough that you missed out on a prediction, our first ever prediction show to listeners, but why do you got to lie to him 5 minutes in on top of it?
You know, I don't need this. I'll see him punk my way out this bitch and sign with Fox, Travis. Don't you tempt me.
And you know what? We're going to do it again on the alternative this week. I know it's not AEW, but there's no way we're not going to talk about the big grand return a little bit here at the top of the show. Before we do, good to have you back once again. UnionSmack.BigCartel.com, the official Hibiki TMD merch on Twitter at the Hibiki TMD. That little red goddamn button below, hit it. All the goodness, retro gaming, and pro wrestling. I don't know what that was, Colin, but I'm glad it's out of my system. I feel weird. I'm on so much goddamn Motrin and Aleve, like I said off air. Like, Jesus Christ, I'm feeling loopy, but I'm here. I'm ready. I'm hyped. So much has happened. So much has gone down. Full gears in the books. Another episode of Dynamite, and the ratings are in. I know we say they don't give a shit, but people up in arms again. My God, AEW kicked NXT's ass in the ratings this week. We'll get to that.
Yeah, that they did. They
Um,
did.
let's get to the big one though. I'm being super annoying for the intro this week, and I don't mean to. CM Punk, everyone knows, returning Colin.
Oh yeah, no, it was definitely one of the first things. Like I go onto Twitter and I see his name trending, and you made the joke before the show. I don't want to steal your joke or anything like that, but you said before the show you saw his name and thought he died, and I was like, usually if you see someone's name trending, it's they either said something racist or they died, but no, CM Punk back kind of under the WWE umbrella, signing a Fox contract to do some analysis for SmackDown every week. So I mean, this first episode's going to be this next one. I'm looking forward to it. I might actually watch the backstage show. I haven't watched it yet, but they brought in CM Punk probably because they wanted more viewers, and I think that's what they're going to get.
Because the initial showing, the debut episode, did pathetic numbers, shockingly bad numbers.
It wasn't good. It was like bad TNA numbers.
It's pretty pitiful for a debut show, but I mean, are wrestling fans interested on a Sports Center themed show like this every week for essentially, let's say it's something that's not a real sport? I don't feel like that's what once again, Colin, we always find ourselves saying this. Fans aren't interested in bells and whistles. They just want the shoe to fit right first. We need to fix the things that are wrong in wrestling for starters. Just like with the wrestling games out there. 2K putting their DLC tweets that are coming out. No, fix the broken game first before you announce DLC, you idiots. People are just going to shit on that, which they did in that thread. If you go and see on Twitter, it's hilarious.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the big reasons they don't have very many viewers is like it's on a channel that isn't as easily accessed as like USA would be or something like that. So it's definitely, probably has something to do with that. I can't watch it. I mean, I don't have cable. So unless I have some sort of streaming service, it's not an easy show for me to watch. I'll find a way, somehow or another, if I really want to watch it. But if it's one of those things where it's like, unless you're really that interested in it, and I think some wrestling fans would have some sort of interest in like a Sports Center type show for this thing, because I look at it as like, it's like one of those things where like it's making WWE and wrestling look like a legitimate sport and I myself, I consider it a sport. I know it's different than some of the other sports, but I still consider it a sport. And so it's nice to kind of see it recognized under that bigger umbrella term.
What I love that one of the things AEW does that WWE doesn't is they do that Sports Center type feel, but they do it throughout their show, and they sprinkle it in live event center style with Tony Schiavone like they did back in the day when it streamlined and it flowed and it felt good to see that, and like you were hyped for these sometimes like promos and the special event segments and shit like that. I feel like, bring that back. Why not? WWE hasn't done a format like that in so long. It would be a Back to the Future type thing where it's refreshing to go back to the past because, the past is now the future again because you haven't done it in so long type feel.
Exactly. But yeah, it's nice to have CM Punk back. They mentioned him on the SmackDown broadcast earlier tonight. It's cool to see him like back in the wrestling industry in some shape or fashion.
I got to give it to him. I know people are giving him shit and calling him a sellout. And I got to quote one of my good buddies, V Infuso. It's one of the best lines I've ever heard. It's every wrestler should be in this business to make as much money possible as quickly as they can because the shelf life, as everyone says, is very short, as we see with much talent. You know what I mean? That should be the goal. Now, the stuff with Colt Cabana, how pissed off is Colt Cabana right now? We went through all this shit, you're just going to go back anyway. Like, Jesus Christ, like, my God, just the headaches in the court.
Some people are probably rightfully pissed off like Colt Cabana, but yeah, he's there to make a paycheck. He's more likely than not, he's doing it because they're paying him really well. If the pay wasn't good, he wouldn't be there.
I know one thing. I think Cody Rhodes couple guys in the AEW higher ups have made statements how he made them look like idiots, how he kind of was sleazy, his business ethics were a little questionable with appearing at the Starcast and kind of stringing them along. We've heard both sides with Punk, and now we can segue back into what our actual fucking show is, AEW, God forbid. About Punk, you know all the rumors of the text message, contract offer apparently, and all that shit. I don't know what to believe. I don't really care. We don't know who's working who. It's the wrestling business. You never really know what to believe, Colin. Fair to say.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. In wrestling, it's, you hear one thing and it's not the truth. You hear this other thing and it is the truth, but it's really hard to tell which is which.
It is. It's tough to say. It is interesting that apparently, allegedly, we're not 100% confirming it, but, it's Fox contract. I'm just really intrigued, like everybody, the goddamn elephant in the room. The first time, if he's on backstage for an interview, when they have guests or anything with Triple H, it's going to feel awkward, and it's that good kind of awkward in pro wrestling. That tense, edge of your seat kind of awkward. And at least for the first couple weeks, we'll get that. Of course, it'll fizzle out because that's how they book shit. And we all know what they're going to do with Punk if he's booked in an angle as an authority figure or something, a one-off as a referee or something. But I hope they don't squander the potential of Punk's actual return to actual WWE programming. Because he's going to be in some storyline eventually. He's just not going to be on backstage this entire time, I feel like.
Yeah, maybe he'll be in something, I feel like, at one point or another. At least this opens up the idea that, like, hey, he'll rightfully be placed in the Hall of Fame at some point in the future. Now that what the fuck? Now that bridge isn't burned like it used to be, it's, it's open again. So who knows what we'll see. CM Punk has been a very unpredictable kind of person the last couple of years, so we'll see what he does.
And you see the rumors, I've seen everyone already questioning, well, what if he came in to counter Triple H at Survivor Series and he led Team WWE? It would be ironic that Triple H, back when in that storyline he was a COO. Who the fuck cares? It's Survivor Series. It's not going to matter afterwards. That's where I'm at with the main roster right now.
I mean, I'm looking forward to the show just because I really want to fucking see the triple threat.
The in-ring, I'm looking forward to. Yeah, the in-ring of Survivor Series is always probably one of the best shows of the year, but like storyline-wise, it's just not worth getting invested in,
What is this podcast about again?
It is about Full Gear, which went down actually now, my time, not yours yet, a week ago. As of this recording, Colin. I feel like for a first actual pay-per-view, it was a solid effort. It was a great show. I got to give it to him again. I don't have a lot of bad to say, hardly any actually for this one specifically. I know a lot of people, Colin, had a problem with the main event and the selling and just blah, blah, blah. And I'm also like, every time these people that bitch about it, they always put Mick Foley in their top 10 or some guy like that. Mick Foley sold the same kind of way in these matches. This is kind of Moxley's character, so it gets a pass. And I feel like the booking of this was meant to show that Omega, when needed, can do this, and it added another layer to his character other than, oh, look, it's a weeb that plays video games a lot, and he's a good wrestler.
Exactly. The show itself was fantastic. Real quick, I will be 100% honest with everyone. These were I did do predictions for the show, I think. I don't know if I tweeted them or not, and honestly, I could be wrong. I forget shit easily. But these were my actual predictions. I didn't do terribly. I assumed Britt Baker was going to win. She won that in the pre-show. And then, well, I suppose if I spoiled the entire match card, we have really nothing to talk about anymore. So I'll let you know at the end what my predictions really were. I didn't do too bad, though. But yeah.
I feel like it's a week. Everybody knows what happened. You're good.
Yeah, that's fair. We can run down the match card real quick. So, opening match, tag team match, Proud and Powerful, the Young Bucks. I figured Proud and Powerful was going to win. I feel like this was a show where the Inner Circle was going to do really well, and they did. I thought Pac was going to beat Adam Page. I didn't see Adam Page winning. I thought that was really impressive. Shawn Spears beating Joey Janela. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know that was a match until like an hour before the show, but honestly, I think I probably would have had Shawn Spears winning just because I feel like Joey Janela is an established enough character that they can put him really with anyone and anything in the show and it'll make sense. I feel like Shawn Spears needs a little bit more character development in the company to really like solidify himself. So I think this win was a lot needed for him.
By the way, Colin, Uncle Tuna gave that match 3.25 stars.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, the match wasn't bad, but 3.5 stars good. Not really. I didn't see SoCal Uncensored dropping the belts 4 days after they won them. So that SoCal, I don't think anyone predicted anything other than SoCal and Centric winning. Rio, I didn't really know much about this storyline. Perfectly honest, I skipped this match because I was watching with a buddy and I really wanted him to watch the main event. But he was really he wanted to go to sleep, so I'm like, well, we'll skip this one. Jericho beating Cody, phenomenal match. I really liked it. We'll get to everything about that match at some point, but yeah, Jericho winning was pretty easy to predict. And then yeah, Moxley defeating Omega. This one could have kind of gone to anyone, but I figured Moxley was winning just because he's the character in AEW that I feel like he's the bigger name that needed the win. Omega's been an established person for years at this point, and I think Moxley kind of needed that win to keep the momentum going. So it was a pretty easy show to predict, I feel like. I don't know how everyone else did, but I feel like this show was fairly easy to predict who would win whichever match.
The only one I got wrong was Adam Page and Pac. I thought Pac was going to win. And I thought that was going to be a good match, but I was surprised at how good of a match that was, especially on Adam Page's end. That was a great match. It's one of my favorite matches of the whole card. Excuse me. I did predict. I'm patting myself on my back like we talked off air. Barry Horowitz style. I'm patting myself on my back, by the way. The references are all over the place. MJF, I said it, man. I was like, man, it's too predictable. He's going to turn. I was like, no, I feel like it's meant to be predictable. They need to do something because it's just, I don't know. It was kind of working with him on Cody's side, but I'm glad they already ripped the Band-Aid off because it's working, as we'll get to what happened on Dynamite. And I even went the full length and said he's going to be in the inner circle as Chris Jericho's protege because it makes a hell of a lot more sense with the scarf. MJF is literally 2013 Chris Jericho or 2010. Whenever Chris Jericho did the suits all the time and had the team with the Big Show. I think it was 2010.
Something like that.
He's just that character.
Yeah, no, MJF and Jericho, and we're also going to review the episode of Dynamite that happened this week. Oh, man, I did not realize that, like, I truly needed MJF and Cody Rhodes, or not Cody, MJF and Chris Jericho in the same promo, but my God, I could listen to these two men just yell at each other for 6 hours, and I'd pay to see it. I wouldn't get bored 1 second.
We'll get there. We're going to disagree on something. We will get there later down in the episode. This, though, let's just start at the top. We're not going to go full length on Full Gear, just, the bullet points here. I thought, like I said, the title match went off without a hitch. The crowd ate it up. I don't know if that guy in the crowd that threw the beer on MJF was a plant or if he was real. I don't care. Either way, it came off really well on television. I feel like this was MJF's true coming out party as a top guy. This is what I feel like everyone who's ever seen this kid from the first press conference back last January, Colin, where he called Conrad Thompson turkey tits and all that shit. I feel like as soon as it's because I feel like too, you're with me. The first time you ever saw MJF, like, who the fuck is this indie Miz? But when you heard him talk, it's like, who the Miz who? Because this guy, in my opinion, is better than the Miz on the mic. Hands down.
Absolutely.
Lives the gimmick.
Easily.
The greatest thing I've seen from Full Gear Weekend was that goddamn convention and that you saw the video, that signing with MJF, and he would write whore on women's pictures, and that one with the fat guy where he refused to sign the scarf because he said fuck off or something because he didn't have $20. It was tremendous. And people loved it. You could see him smiling, the fan. They weren't offended because they knew what they were getting into.
I mean, they paid $200 to meet the damn guy. I would hope they wouldn't get offended with what they were paying for. Yeah, no, MJF is fantastic. I mean, and this is the thing that bothered me with some of the fans is that everyone was mad because they were kind of confused, like, oh, so a heel just turned heel, but because he was clearly never a face, and I'm like, yeah, but like he was. Like, yes, he's a heel, but he's one of those heels where it's like he's sided with a good guy. He's not doing anything wrong or necessarily heelish on TV and as the character. So when people got mad that he actually turned heel, and they were like, oh, a heel turned heel, yes, that's exactly what happened. What do you not understand?
He was kind of like Raphael in the Ninja Turtles, where Raphael was always the dick, and he would always try to be the lone wolf sometimes, or never do what the other brothers kind of went. But when it came down to it, they all fought for the common, for Splinter, like Cody was Splinter or something. You know what I mean? So yeah, he was just that. And I even said that with Drew and Logan on the last week on the episode that I feel like because if they weren't going to do this, I felt like he was going to be this weird hybrid guy the first time, where like he was a baby face, but his character wasn't a baby face at all. But that's what made him a baby face, if that makes sense. And I've never really seen a character like that. Not even Steve Austin was like that, because eventually Steve Austin stopped doing such heel things, you know. But to equate it to that, yeah, he was like Raphael for the Ninja Turtles. This made him the Shredder to AEW fans are now, and it was great. He's a true heel now, all the way.
Oh yeah. And the selling itself with everything that happened in that match was fantastic. He threw in the towel and everything. I wasn't too keen on that finish at first, and then I saw everything that happened after, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. He throws in the towel for Cody. He's crying because he feels so bad for costing Cody this match. And the added stipulation was that if Cody lost, he'll never challenge for the AEW championship again. I feel like with what happened, they'll probably like reverse that decision and stuff like that. But we'll see what happens with that one. But yeah, and then Cody's like, hey, it's okay, MJF, it's fine. You did what you have to do, and he just kicks him in the dick and just gets this big shit-eating grin on his face. The entire crowd is buying into it immediately. And then, yeah, you have the guy who throws the beer at him. He's probably a plant, let's be honest. But in that kind of moment, you don't think that, oh, this is a plant. You just think, holy shit, MJF is a bastard. No one likes this guy. And that's what's beautiful about everything that happened in that moment.
You know, another beautiful little booking detail that I feel like a lot of people, if like nobody are really talking about, is the way he kicked him in the dick was just like Chris Jericho did to Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 19. So it was another ode to his new mentor in a way, if you look at it. It was
Really?
exactly that way. Yeah, I don't know if you ever seen that, Colin. Check it out. Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 19. That's all you probably got to put in YouTube machine, and boom, it'll be a kick to the dick. And it was booked and shot kind of the same angle and all that shit. And it's great. And I feel like it's definitely the right guy. A lot of people saying it might be too soon because MJF is so young. I say, have you ever heard of a guy called Rocky Maivia, Randy Orton? How old were they when they won their first world title? Give me a break. MJF is beyond ready, and it's supposed to be an upstart promotion. You build that shit on youth, and I feel like if the stipulation was Cody, I feel like I got a hunch. The more I go with hunches on predictions with this company, I'm always right, so I'm going to go with the Colin. Here it is. Boom. Come at me if I'm wrong, people. Cody Rhodes is never going to hold that title, ever. I think it's going to go down. It could be another like notch on his wall or something, just up there that he can not really brag about, but have that respect in fans' eyes and be like, you know what, it was my company, but I never put myself in that position. I'm not an egomaniac. I could totally see him doing something like that, and I don't think it's the worst idea ever because every time Jeff Jarrett was a TNA champion, everyone cringed because it was so
It's like when Vince McMahon won the ECW world title.
I don't know if it's that bad, but it's bad. That's
right. But it's the same general concept. Where like he doesn't want that kind of thing.
At least Cody's an actual worker. We'll say that.
Right. Yeah. At least Cody's an actual. At least he actually knows the business and does this for a living. It's it's definitely different. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think they might take what happened with the finish and reverse it. I don't know. But yeah, we'll see. One of the other this is something that if you watch, the other promotion, as we'll call it on this show, because we only talk about AEW, don't pay attention to the first 5 minutes of the show.
Oh, you can say Impact, Colin. It's fine.
Yeah, so the other thing about ROH, I'm kidding, but the other thing with WWE and everything like that is long-term booking and consistency really isn't words they know. It happens every now and then, but the thing is, when you have long-term booking and things that, like, you don't quite understand them or you never put the pieces together, but then you finally do down the line and you're like, holy shit, that's amazing, I've never realized that. One of the coolest things that someone pointed out on Twitter was that on the Being the Elite episode, where MJF was introduced as Cody Rhodes' best friend, take a guess as to what the episode of that title, the title of that episode was called.
Hey, it's that episode of this show that has MJF as Cody Rhodes' friend.
Very close. No, The episode of Being the Elite where they introduced MJF as Cody Rhodes' best friend was titled Full Gear.
Oh, I did not know that. See, a lot of people don't. I don't watch Being the Elite. I've maybe seen one episode ever of Being
I
all the
haven't
way.
watched. Yeah, same thing. I've watched one episode of it, maybe here and there. But when I saw that, I lost my mind. I was like, "Holy shit, that's the coolest thing ever!" Like that's just not something you see in wrestling that often. And like and you have to think like, how long have they been planning this kind of thing to happen? Like, where does the booking really start with them? Where it's like, okay, we have this idea, let's actually do it, and then they fucking did it.
They did. We're not done talking about this angle and these guys. We'll get back to them later in the show. Let's go on the other end with how Full Gear started off. Well, I don't want to talk about B Priestley and what's her face, by the way. So we're gonna gloss over that. It wasn't anything.
It was the buy-in. Britt Baker won. The match
Yeah.
wasn't that great. That's fine. I love B Priestley though. She's one of my favorites. Love her. Anyways, go on.
The Young Bucks, PNP, kicking off the show. Again, I gotta say it. Less is more for me with the Young Bucks. When I get smaller doses of these guys, much more tolerable. I'm not getting 40-minute goddamn four corner tag matches with the Young Bucks. It's unbearable because it's just like watching goddamn wrestling drills and watching the same shit over and over. But here in like little 15, 20-minute, little something to get the crowd up, it's the opener is exactly what it needed to be. The two right teams in that role to do that. I could have also lived with swapping out the tag title match opening this show, but this was fun. A PNP, my God, I'm glad that they're not just looking strong, they're looking credible, if that makes sense. It's not just they're being put over, these guys, for the sake of being put over. You can see, for a lot of fans unaware of their work and impact, you can see why they're investing in these guys because they are really talented. Now, their selling of super kicks is questionable, but
It was something. It's kind of like when JTG sold the Cobra Strike from Santino, and he looked like he was having a stroke. Like it was something.
yeah, I don't know. A lot of people say that it's hard to take them seriously because they're a watered down version of LAX and they come off maybe like a poor man's Briscoes or something. I say I'm glad that they're there because if you see Hernandez on NWA, my God, I'm glad he's not in this role anymore because age is unfortunately catching up to Hernandez. I feel like I'm fine with it. Like I said, it makes sense to have Jericho have some kind of street thugs in there. It makes it a more, you ready for this? $5 word, eclectic bunch, the Inner Circle, not just like a bunch of preppies or just kind of one stereotype. I like the fact that the Inner Circle is kind of just this melting pot and whatever, guys, for one common goal again. And it's working for me. Best part, obviously, shocker, right? Ricky Morton, Canadian Destroyer.
That was wonderful. Yeah, this match itself, fantastic opener, 21 minutes give or take. Yeah, no, it was a good place to start the show and set the pace for everything. The Young Bucks opening the show is kind of one of those. I feel like the Elite feels like they can't push themselves too much, or it will kind of start to go down
Yeah.
the TNA Jeff Jarrett route. But I think what they've done with them so far has been fantastic, and they've booked themselves rather well, regardless of if they're losing or not. So yeah, no, this match was fantastic. Ricky Morton pulling off the Canadian Destroyer and then a suicide dive. It was fantastic. Yeah, no, I have nothing bad to say about it. It was a good match.
I don't think it's more about if they get big wins. I think it's more about if they're completely dominant. That's when people start getting up in arms. Like when it's like the reign of terror and shit like that. When it's like nepotism at its finest and blah blah blah. I feel like it's okay. Like we see with Omega, it's fun. People haven't really bitched that Omega's gotten a couple sporadic big wins, right? So because he's not just steamrolling the roster because he's Kenny Omega and buddies with Cody, you know.
Exactly.
What else on Full Gear really tickled your fancy, Colin? Paige and Pac, you want to get into that?
Yeah, we can go to that one. Yeah, that was definitely a good match. It was a bit slower than I thought it would be, but I mean, for a 20-minute match, give or take, it was really good. Adam Page getting the win, definitely a surprise to me. I thought for sure Pac was gonna get that win, and that was gonna kind of be the end of the feud, as we saw on the following episode of Dynamite. It's not, but Adam Page and Pac are two phenomenal wrestlers. I'm okay with seeing them wrestle a couple more times.
I appreciate a worker like Pac a lot more when he slows down his work rate because I feel like when he does his high spots, they stand out a lot more. So maybe that's why I really got into this match maybe a little more than you and appreciated its pacing. But other than that, we're totally on the same page. I feel like the crowd maybe was a little. They came back alive at the ending and all that stuff, the finish, and just I don't know, but they weren't prepared for just the pacing of the match either. They were expected more of a high pace because everything on these guys' resume and every time they worked together was more high pace. But it was nice to see them change the pace and give us something different, and not just the same goddamn match again. And it was good shit. And I was wrong with the finish, and I'm glad I was because I wasn't shocked, but I was pleasantly surprised that Paige got a win.
And it goes back to what I've been saying on the show for the last since we started the show is that Paige is a guy who's like he has been losing some of the bigger matches, so it's good that he's got a big win on one of their pay-per-views to that way people aren't kind of like, oh well, he's going to lose all the time, which is he was kind of getting close to that. Now that he's picking up wins like he has been, then it's good for Adam Page and it's good for the booking.
I'm kind of glad too they haven't just given up hope, and I okay, it's tough to say because we're so accustomed to how WWE books and what they probably think. Just like I feel like it's probably better to just see it through for now and try to still make him a baby face and just because it is very early in the company. Don't give up on it yet because you could have gone either way. You could have made him be the one that turned on Cody. I I feel like 6 months from now, it's like MJF and Paige in the title picture of that company anyway. And I feel like that's the two of the key guys they're going to build off of. And this loss didn't hurt Pac because he's Pac. I don't feel like anybody was really up in arms on social media when they saw Pac lose, and I love the dead shot or the dead eye, excuse me. It's one of the two. I love that finish, and I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, I think Paige is a perfect guy. He already has a ready-made storyline for when he does win the world title because he's never won a major title. I don't think I don't even think he's won a singles title in any promotion at all. He might have won something in like a no-name promotion that no one really knows. I'm sure he's won a couple of those. Um, but for the most part, he hasn't really done a whole lot in a bunch of big name promotions. He was the ROH 6-man champion at one point with the Young Bucks, and he's won the Casino Battle Royal and All Elite, if that's worth anything. But other than that, he's won tag championships and other promotions. He was the Mid Atlantic Heavyweight Championship in the Carolina Wrestling Federation for whatever that's worth. But other than that, he really hasn't done a whole lot.
You totally don't have Wikipedia up or anything right now, by the way.
Not a single thing. I knew that right off the top of my
head. The Missouri heavyweight title, pal. No, it was a good match. The women's match, a lot. I gotta agree. Even some of these trolls on social media, they shits on the women's division. I can't praise it. I can't say they've done a great job with the division, but I kind of, devil's advocate, what's really left to work with in the talent pool of women's wrestling that's not already swept up and signed with the company right now? Let's be real. I don't want to say they're working with scraps, Colin, but
I mean, arguably, the women's division in all of wrestling is probably the best it's ever has been because, I mean,
hands down.
Name one good singles wrestler, like female wrestler, that isn't signed to one of the major promotions. Like, it's pretty hard to do that.
And let's slow the roll on certain people we know that will probably come at us like, well, look at Stardom. Okay, I get it, Stardom and all that shit, but if you can't just bring in everyone from Stardom, because then it's kind of what happens at Full Gear. It's two Japanese women that probably have a hell of a history over there, but we don't know enough backstory on the woman that's champion in the first place, let alone this challenger we know nothing about. She just dresses like fucking Freddie Mercury.
Right. I mean, I did appreciate as much. I mean, I did not watch the match, full disclosure, but I did watch the pre-match package about how Emi Sakura is Rio's student. Rio's been training her. They've had multiple matches before, and Rio always seems to get the upper hand. So it's like, is this going to be the time that Emi, beats her master and kind of becomes the teacher in that moment? It wasn't, and To be perfectly honest, I can't say if the match was good or not. I didn't watch it.
Well, come on, guys. It's the Rey Mysterio and Eddie of Stardom. It's how Eddie could never beat Rey. Well, that's great. But who the fuck knows what Stardom is except two guys like us that does a podcast? Does the casual fan know what Stardom is? No, they don't. Yeah, and I saw that countdown to Full Gear thing they put on YouTube, and I see these things. But my problem is, let's see more of it on the goddamn show that's on cable television when it airs. Sprinkle it in. That's all they need to do. That's all they really need to do. My biggest qualm with this show for me to just say, you know what? This is a pretty goddamn flawless episode of wrestling every week. Just more of that kind of shit. Fine tune it.
Exactly, and like I mean, they did air that pre-match package before the match on Full Gear, but I mean, other than that, yeah, I didn't really know a whole lot of this match beforehand. I know what Stardom is. I don't watch it because I don't have the time or the streaming service to do it. But yeah, I mean that's great and all, but it's like I mean if they're pulling storylines from Stardom and doing them on AEW, it's like, well, great. What is that? You know, I'm not going to be able to follow that because I don't watch Stardom.
Yeah. The match for what I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing. It was pretty solid. It wasn't like I said, the investment going in. I feel like probably took a lot away from my reaction to it. I don't know about you, how you felt about this.
Didn't watch the match. I think I saw in total maybe 2 minutes of the whole thing. I saw like part of the middle of it, a bit of the ending. I like the ending of it. It worked for me. But yeah, I mean, Rio's still the champion. I'm fairly positive they're just building it up to so she drops it to Britt Baker probably at the next pay per view they do, or maybe one of the bigger cities they do Dynamite in. So we'll see what happens.
Kenny Omega, John Moxley, goddamn, this a lot of people, oh, fake weapons and blah blah blah. Too much, it's too much. I feel like this exceeded my expectations. I'm not in love with this match, but I was pretty blown away by some of the things these guys did. Honestly,
I I I saw I saw the gifs on Twitter of some of the spots, and I'm like, well, I'm excited to watch this match. And as far as the match itself, I mean, Christ, the thing was 40 minutes of some pretty intense shit, I'm gonna say. I mean, they had glass. Kenny Omega was digging a screwdriver into Moxley. They pulled the. I mean, I always love a match I love an extreme match where they pull out the apron, they dig up the thing, they expose the wood, and they just drop their heads on the wood. I always appreciate a good match like that. And so yeah, no, this match is right up my alley. I love this match.
I always appreciate a company that has an unsanctioned lights out match, and the same company goes to the lengths to, you know what, these good lads, let's build them a barbed wire blanket. But we're not going to sponsor or sanction it, but we'll build them it.
Right, like in kayfabe, I wonder what the conversation would have been like. Kenny is probably just like, "Hey guys, like I don't know how much you can help with this match, but like
the Young Bucks.
What's our barbed wire budget looking like, so I can just get an idea for this idea I have."
He just speed dialed Tony. That or Matt asked his wife to make a bar because she makes everything. Apparently, she's very handy at making merchandise. Hey, honey,
I mean, she is talented at it for sure.
No, that spot was it was pretty brutal. It was pretty brutal. Some of the barbed wire mop, the cleaner stuff. Just that if you haven't seen it, guys, check it out. I don't want to really give anything away for those that haven't. But
I mean, it's been a week. It's kind of the thing. I will say that I was screaming at my TV while watching the thing when Kenny Omega pulls out the broom with the barbed wire. First of all, I popped just because I'm like, it's the cleaner. I get it. But when it was just dragging it, like when he put it on Moxley's back, I was basically I was like, oh, please just sweep his back with the barbed wire. And then he did. I'm like, that's such a creative spot. Like, name another time when someone's fucking done that. Like, that's what I liked about this match, is we saw shit that hasn't always been done.
Just what was it, the glass in the mouth? What was that? The tacks? Something?
Yeah, no, it was like just a bunch of shattered glass that they were just dropping each other on. Kenny dragged Moxley through it, put it in Moxley's mouth, and kicked him, and he spit it out. I mean, regardless of if the glass was plastic or not, like, I mean, to be fair, I didn't see any of the arguments about fake weapons or anything like that. I'm not sure what would have been not real or anything like that. But I mean, regardless or not, you're not thinking about that while watching the match. You're just seeing this thing happen. It's like when you watch a movie and you're seeing these action fights and people go through windows and shit like that. You're not thinking to yourself, oh, well, that's not real. That's a stunt double. The window broke beforehand. You're just looking at it like, oh shit, that was badass, and that's exactly what you think while watching these kind of matches.
I think my stance on hardcore wrestling has pretty much always been the gist since I've been a teenager. Because I loved it a hell of a lot more as a teen, obviously, as most wrestling fans do, right? But I feel like my main argument is kind of that, in a sense, Colin, is where I feel like 95% of wrestling fans, I'm getting my percents again, I know it, I'm doing it twice in a show. It's a special treat. It's to catch you up, Colin. 90% of wrestling fans going into watching a wrestling show kind of have that mentality too, because it's not like we're going into it like, I'm going to watch a baseball game. We kind of know this isn't reality, and you can get away with certain things. It's what makes it wrestling. If the heel manager, even in the 1980s, if the heel manager hit the other manager who was a female with like a powder or a shoe like they did, they'd go to jail.
Exactly, and like I remember I was watching a stand-up comedy bit one time, and it was some guy who was a pro wrestling fan, and he was talking about like how batshit insane pro wrestling really is when you sit down and think about it and compare it to like other sports. Like he was saying, and I mean I know this is about AEW, but bear fucking with me for a second. He's saying something along the lines of like the winner of the main event of WrestleMania 31 wasn't even in the match. And that shit doesn't happen. He made the comparison like it'd be like if the NBA Finals were the Warriors and the Cavaliers, and all of a sudden the Rockets showed up and just beat the shit out of them and took the trophy and left. Like that, you don't see that in other sports, and that's what makes wrestling as fun as it is. It's better. It's more entertaining for me to watch.
For me to sum up pro wrestling, especially where we're at in 2019, with so many options, so many forms, from smelly tampon matches to wrestling clinics to classics, the bottom line is wrestling promotions now, I equate it to going to the movies. Yeah, you go into the movie, you got all these options, all these different types of movies. You want to see a CGI family flick? Sure. You want to see tits and ass in a horror movie? You want to see straight up boomer action movies with like Clint Eastwood and shit like that? Yeah. But that's the thing with wrestling. I can't. Yes, I can bitch about Joey Ryan matches, all that shit till the cows come home. But at the end of the day, people want to go see that movie. I'm not going to go see a Renee Zellweger movie or something like that. God, I'm dating myself so much that week. But for those people, let them go see it. It's not bothering me.
Exactly.
God, I'm so fucking long-winded. All this Motrin makes you long-winded. It should be on one of the warnings on the.
Definitely. I mean, as long as you ain't drinking, then you're alive and well. That's what matters.
What'd you think of the set of Full Gear, real quick?
I mean, unless I'm completely spacing, it was different than what they've been doing. It wasn't like the two tunnel thing again. I like the ramp being like I like the sets where the ramp is like even level with the apron. I've always liked that kind of design and style. So yeah, I dug it.
I don't know. I'm such a goddamn nerd. It reminded me of a Zelda level, like a giant clock. I don't know why, but I liked it. It was just like, oh, this is Zelda. And I'm like, I'm little Link. I don't know what I'm talking about. Like you said, it was different. It wasn't just the Impact wrestling tunnels and a chandelier for once.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that about wrap up Full Gear?
I mean, we totally missed the tag team match, but I mean, what more can be said? SoCal Uncensored, Lucha Brothers, Private Party, fantastic teams. It wasn't that long of a match, which was nice. SoCal Uncensored won. Not too much to it.
It pretty much went down exactly like I thought in my head, and even Private Party taking the L, right, eating the pin.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's exactly how all three of us booked it last episode. That's why we are your go-to source for AEW, right here, the alternative. That was Full Gear. Thumbs up for me, Colin.
Oh yeah, an absolutely fantastic show. One of the better ones they've done. It's an A+ for me.
Man, I'm just waiting on it on Twitter and the comments down below. Like, man, this show is turning you into such a mark for AEW.
I mean, hey, I'm impressed we've kept the show going. Like when you first approached me, like, hey, let's do a show about AEW, I'm like, fuck, I didn't even think you were gonna watch it.
AEW, well, this one, when it aired, I was actually at work when it aired live. And I think that's another thing too that I don't think for people that give a shit about ratings and all that stuff. This is on some of the like NXT's on Fox and TNT. These are two go-to channels for sports, and a lot of bars and restaurants and venues like that have games on all the time. Games aren't always on TV when they're on Fox. Eventually, they go off the air and other things come on the network, right? And sometimes, God forbid, a bartender or a waitress or whoever controls that for that blessed TV remote at that establishment gets busy and can't change the channel. I see AEW all the time when I'm at work, when I'm just going through like with like the big TVs because it's a sports bar, half of it, and people aren't like getting into it. It's kind of just like you see. I've actually seen people. I mean, can you ask to turn this to like a game or something? But I've never seen people like getting into it.
I mean, it's one of those things where like wrestling is still one of those like taboo kind of things where it's like people either love it, they hate it, and there's some of the people that are just like, I don't care either way. But I've met plenty of people who like I'd say like, oh, I'm a pro wrestling fan, and they just shit on it for like the next 10 minutes, saying, oh, it's so stupid, it's fake, it's not real. And my response every time is like, yeah, what's the last movie you watch, huh? Right, and they don't know what to say anymore because they're like, oh, well, I watched Fast and Furious. I'm like, you think Vin Diesel and The Rock are driving fast cars out of airplanes, and that's totally real too. And that's usually when they stop talking to me at the bus stop. But
You know what I saw on that TV when I saw it up when I was at work, Colin?
what?
When I gazed up with my eyes, I happened to see Marco Stunt in the Jungle Express kicking off Dynamite this week is what I saw. Legit.
Yeah, good way to open the show. Well, actually, wasn't it? I don't mean to ruin your segue, but I believe the opener was Moxley versus Nakazawa. I could be wrong, but I think that was the squash match that kind of started everything out.
You're right. I wish I just would have gone with my route because now we have to talk about Michael Nakazawa. I'm glad he didn't get any of his shit in. That he was taken care of pretty quickly. I am thankful for that.
You're not a Nakazawa fan?
It depends how it's used. I don't feel like it's really been used correctly. It's either I feel like Dark should showcase more of the up and coming talent, not gimmick matches, and I feel like he's just such a gimmick type wrestler who can't be taken seriously. Like it's a stretch for me to ever take that character seriously if he always uses it in AEW. I'll just say that.
Fair enough. I mean, and that being said, it wasn't much of a worth anything. The match itself, Moxley did some moves, hit him with the paradigm shift, got the win, cut a promo afterwards. Basically, I mean, him and Omega seem to be done, possibly. We'll see what happens. But I mean, Moxley was, very adamant, like, all right, give me who's next. No one wants me. And then, later in the show, we'll get to it. Someone answered his challenge, but we'll get to that match when we get to it. But yeah, Moxley beat Nakazawa. As good a match as it could be. But yeah, then there was the Jurassic Express, the Dark Order, Marco Stunt getting another match. I like Marco Stunt because he's not what you'd expect to see in pro wrestling, and I like the wrestlers where you're just like, well, he doesn't quite belong there, so that's what interests me. That's what I think might pull in some people where they're like, well, who's this fella? Just kind of in the ring, standing there, shorter than literally every child he's ever met in his life.
I think AEW also set a record this week for fastest they've ever made Jim Cornette break every piece of furniture in his house, because within the first 20 minutes of this show, look what they've given Cornette to work with for his podcast this week.
Oh, man.
I feel like in a nutshell, they intentionally went out of their way to give like them everything he hates the most besides Joey Janela and that company first, so he can just stop watching it, because why watch it?
I mean, Cornette has to yell at someone. It might as well be Marco Stunt.
This match was, at times, I don't want to say botchy, they're miscues, maybe. You got to think nerves are still an issue for a lot of this roster, and I feel like that's something a lot of people aren't talking about either. And I feel like we need to talk about more. Some of these guys haven't wrestled for more in front of more than goddamn Jesus Christ 1,000 people in their entire career. I think that's fair to say.
Right, and some of them, they've never been in a situation where they've been on TV. I know that was one of my, one of my reasonings for as to why Britt Baker may not have gotten picked up as fast as she should have. It's just because this is the first time she's ever been on TV. Same with guys like Marco Stunt and Jungle Boy and stuff like that. And a good number of the rosters probably just they've never been on anything where it's like they're constantly being recorded. They do live events. They might do other promotions that have their own thing online. But I mean, to this degree, this is a first time thing for almost everyone.
Is it smart to take a risk like that and maybe borderline a necessity? Because you look back through the history, maybe you could say Bischoff did that with a lot of those cruiserweights in WCW nobody had heard of. To give them that kind of time in prime time during the Monday Night Wars was kind of a risk. A lot of times it paid off when they won for 83 weeks. Cheap plug, kind of, I guess. Why would I plug their shit? I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say because they put themselves and another. It's not just the women. What's really left in the professional wrestling world as far as talent to swoop up, especially guys with experience that's not already signed up by a major company? I mean, I'm talking 15 plus years. They're all signed up. Samoa Joe, Daniels, they're all over the place.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, we mentioned earlier the women, even with the men, there's not a whole lot of big name wrestlers left that aren't signed somewhere just because at this day and age they're smart enough. They're wrestling is picking up a little more steam. I think the next decade, we're getting to the end of, the tens. There's never really a good name to describe this decade, but we're getting to the end. I think the 2020s and everything like that is going to be like a bigger resurgence for wrestling. So more and more people are signing those contracts because they know, that's how you're going to get the name out there. That's how you're going to build that brand.
When I made the movie reference earlier, like the comparison with different kinds of promotions, Colin, the two companies that kind of take that thinking and put it in a blender and put all the movies into like one big long grindhouse marathon where it's like a bunch of genres, a bunch of short films is WWE and AEW. And a lot of people aren't getting that. AEW isn't like TNA used to be or like Ring of Honor. They're not a super indie. They're trying to be a legit, no pun intended, alternative to WWE. And what comes with that is a wrestling show when it's meant for that mainstream and that kind of casual audience, a variety of wrestling show, and you're going to get Marco Stunt on the same card as Pac. That's just going to happen. It's how you book it is what really is cause and effect, is what matters. People don't get that. AEW is not New Japan or Ring of Honor on TNT. No, it's AEW. It's WCW 2019. Can people just finally say what it is? I, for one, am thankful to see Tony Schiavone on this channel again because it's very nostalgic and they're not fucking it up so far. People just should just enjoy it, you know?
Exactly. And I mean, yeah, no, AEW, like you said, no pun intended, is the alternative to everything that's been happening in the world of wrestling. It's nice that there's something on a channel that everyone can usually easily access, and it's something different, and it's nice to see that in wrestling. And especially with the kind of roster they bring in, like the kind of roster is definitely a mixed bag of different kind of performers. And I mean, especially with this match itself, you have Dark Order, which is this kind of strange, kind of mysterious team that you're some people are just like, oh, I wonder what they're about. And then you have Jurassic Express, where you see these two not your average size guys, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, let me see what they can do. And then you have what's happening at the end of this match. I mean, Jurassic Express picked up the win, I think. And then, oh no, I'm sorry, no,
No.
it was Uno who won the match for Dark Order, and then after that, they see Marco Stunt, and he's not the kind of guy I'd picture in the Dark Order, but apparently to Stu Grayson, he is. They tried to recruit him afterwards. Jungle Boy put a stop to it. It kind of looked like Marco Stunt was considering it though, which was the interesting thing. This is the first time I've been interested in the Dark Order. And I'm interested to see, where this kind of thing goes. And so, Jungle Boy broke it up, and Dark Order was getting the one up, and John Cena, like back from the pectoral surgery, Luchasaurus comes out months before he was supposed to save the day
I
for
thought you were really talking about
Marco
John
Stunt.
Cena for a second. I'm like, what? How much have you drank tonight, Colin?
Not enough. Well, no, Luchasaurus back from injury, way sooner than advertised, which is nice.
Looking good. Looking good. You know, one thing I've discovered about Judas Devlin or whatever, whoever he used to be, if you ever go back and you watch him without the mask and whenever he did another gimmick, I don't want to say it ruins it for him, but I feel like they should never make Luchasaurus talk because his voice doesn't match him. It's kind of high pitched, if you know what I'm talking about, Colin.
Yeah, no, I watched an interview with Cultaholic did an interview with Luchasaurus not too long ago, and yeah, no, the voice is definitely it's not too off, but it's just not quite what you'd expect. But I think Luchasaurus is the character like he comes out
Seth
there and kicks
Rollins.
ass, but you have yeah, exactly. He comes out, kicks ass, but have Jungle Boy do the talking or something like that.
He sounds just like a big giant Seth Rollins. It's weird. Which is also weird because he kind of looks like him without the mask. This whole I wasn't really into this at all. Here we go. Here, let the sparks fly. That's another thing. What comes with a variety show of wrestling, you can walk away and make a sandwich if it's a segment you don't like. Because if you come back eventually, there's going to be some shit on there you like. That's kind of what happened here. It's it's not because of Marco's stunt and his size, or it's the Dark Order and the gimmick, and it's just it. There's not really anything. I didn't know that Luchasaurus was going to come out, so I didn't really have anything to stick around for. Nothing really. They just none of these guys have been booked prevalent enough on any card to just I don't know. It's me.
Well, I mean, this is probably going to be the storyline that makes people interested in these teams. I mean, Jurassic Express is over as hell. They could have put the title on Luchasaurus at All Out, All In, whatever, and no one would have questioned it because he's that over. Same with the rest of his team. Dark Order is definitely a team that people either like him or don't. But I think this will be the feud and the story that'll kind of bring both of these teams into the light a little bit, and people actually be interested in these two.
Now, if they send these guys out there, like kind of like the Ministry of Darkness used to be, like sacrificing guys and getting a little serious and booked a little strong, then maybe the Dark Order could be cool. Kind of not make it so indie, like we always say, and give a little more money. How much money do they have again? Can we cover up Dark Uno or whatever his name is, his pectoral region? Can we at least do that? And I do want to say Stu Grayson is a goddamn guy with Buddy Murphy syndrome. He's a star waiting to happen. I see it.
He looks. I keep saying he looks like Raymond Rowe from the Viking Experience, whatever the fuck they're called, whatever his name is now. He just kind of looks like him before he like started working out. But yeah, no, I see a lot of potential in him as a single star.
He still looks like
We'll
Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat 3 to me.
basically. Well, yeah. So I mean, we'll see what happens. And Dark Order, they're warming up to me, but maybe this storyline will reach somewhere, and who knows? Maybe Marco Stunt joins the Dark Order, and he's the missing link they need.
It's a shame too because the Dark Order, as Super Smash Brothers, and in any other incarnation without this gimmick, they're a really solid team. The Fatality, like we've said before, is an awesome finisher. They're just really innovative in a lot of their offense. They're a good team. It's just the presentation is key sometimes, and that goes to show for the Dark Order. I feel like. Execution, really, my friend. What was executed next on Dynamite? What a lame segue.
It works out. We had a three-way match with Darby Allin, Shawn Spears, and the librarian, Peter Avalon. I didn't know this was a triple threat match. I saw that Darby Allin and Shawn Spears were going to have a match. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I can work with this. And then I saw Peter Avalon there, and I'm like, oh, he's very obviously there to take the pin. That way Allin and Spears don't look, they don't get pinned. And then what they ended up doing with this is Joey Janela came out and continued the feud with Shawn Spears, and they kind of fought off into the crowd, and that left Darby Allin to hit the librarian with a coffin drop, get the win. Very straightforward match. I mean, once Janela came out, it became very clear what was going to happen. And then after the match, we had Darby Allin just very simply say, "John Moxley, I accept." So now we have Allin and Moxley set up for next week's Dynamite, which I'm very much looking forward to that match.
Crowd ate it up. I did not like the match very much. It was very rushed, and it was very, I don't know, another case
It
of
was it was
nerves
solely there
again.
to it was solely there to push the two storylines forward. It was there to make sure Spears and Janela could keep going. It was there to set up Allen, give him a win so he could make that Moxley announcement. I don't know what the hell they're ever going to do with the librarian gimmicks, but they were there to be the jobber that gets pinned. Very simple match. Wasn't great. It was there for storyline purposes more than anything.
Kmart, Damien Sandow, pretty much.
Basically, I mean, him and I have the same hairstyle, me and the librarian. I just need to shave my no shave November scruff I have going on, and him and I are practically the same person with a mustache.
Even like they're kind of not to spend too much time on them, but Leva Bates kind of teases it in the promo that she's getting fed up with the librarian. And the crowd, it's always just a wet fart and dead silence. Like nobody cares that they're even bothering making that a storyline.
When they announced the whole like competition online before Dynamite's ever, I don't even think Dynamite was announced, or maybe it had been. I don't fucking know. But they had people submitting things to be the librarian. I had no idea why. I thought actual fans would be like selected, but they had fans bringing stuff in, and then it was Peter Avalon, the guy I've never heard of up until when he debuted as the
Sounds like a
librarian.
50s singer.
Exactly. And then you had Leva Bates, Blue Pants, whatever you want to call her. Not the best wrestler, but not the worst either. I like her work for the most part. I like all the cosplaying she does with her matches. When that whole thing started, it's like, okay, we can see where this goes and see what happens, but it's one of those things where AEW is like, they just haven't done anything with them. They made it seem like it was going to be such a big thing, and nothing. Nothing's really come from it, and they're just there to be jobbers.
Yeah, pretty much. What
Speaking
else?
of jobbers,
Yeah.
we had Danny Jordan versus your favorite wrestler in the world, Nyla Rose.
Crowd does not care at all about Nyla Rose.
I mean, I like Danny Jordan. This is the first time I've ever seen her, but from what I saw, I mean, I wouldn't mind if she stuck around. I don't know. They've been very. They
They
do the same thing where they bring in wrestlers, they give them a chance, but they don't sign them or anything like that. They're just solely there to fill in spots. The thing I like with what AEW does is they bring in wrestlers who actually have kind of a name to them in some aspect. With WWE, they usually bring in just the lowest local promotion jobbers you could find. With AEW, they have people who actually could use this as a good kind of like stepping stone into forwarding their career. But yeah, this was it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad match. I thought this is one of the better ones, better women's matches they've had in a couple of weeks on the show. Rose defeats Jordan, and then they had Brandy Rhodes. Did I say Rhodes? Whatever. Rose beats Jordan. Brandy Rhodes and Awesome Kong come out. We're kind of getting the follow up to this whole the vintages and everything like that. We already saw. I believe it was. I think it was B Priestley who Awesome Kong cut a lock of hair off of. Now they did the same thing with Jordan. I think maybe it was Rose. I wasn't paying attention if I'm being honest. But yeah,
same.
I mean they're forwarding this storyline at least. They're clearly setting up for Awesome Kong and Nyla Rose to duke it out as the bigger women, the ass kickers of the division, and so to speak. So
Have they
yeah,
given up on Aja Kong already?
I forgot she was a thing anyway. So probably
Maybe she was never meant to still be there.
probably. I mean I think isn't anyone from that match even
I
still
mean,
signed?
no, I'm not complaining. I did not want that match at all.
Right, right. So yeah, that was that segment.
Let's do it. Let's talk about the infamous promo now from Dynamite this week with Jericho and all that goodness.
I'm very much into it now. Jericho came out. MJF interrupted him. It was Cody's music he came out to, just kind of mess with him a little bit. But yeah, no, I mean, I you said you were going to disagree with me here, so I mean, I'm interested to see where this goes. But yeah, I thought this promo was fantastic. You could give me Jericho and MJF on the microphone every week, and I would never get sick of it. I think these are two of the best promos in wrestling today. I think Jericho's always has been a phenomenal promo on the mic. MJF is getting better by the second. He's fantastic already. So yeah, I think MJF joining the Inner Circle is definitely an interesting choice. But here's the thing. I don't know if he is joining the Inner Circle. They never officially said he was. There hasn't been anything saying he has so far. So we're kind of we'll see where it goes. But what were your thoughts
I'm
on
almost
this promo?
100% real quick that AEW's Twitter this week put out like a GIF clip of him like hugging Jericho and saying the newest member of the Inner Circle or something like that. That was official. There was a blue check mark involved somewhere. I know that. My thing is, I didn't hate it. I really liked it. I thought thank God for MJF by the end of it. The only thing, my biggest complaint here, this felt blueprint wise almost exactly verbatim like he did with Kevin Owens and WWE a couple years ago, where you thought they were going at it for a little bit. By the end of it, they both said beat up John Cena or something, and then they hugged. If you remember that.
I remember all that happening.
But I feel like MJF took it a step further and he brought it all home, and he made me enjoy it at the end of the day. That was my only problem with it. It felt a little lazy on Jericho's end, but I really liked it, and I love the fact that they're going this route with him. I feel like it needs to, and I feel like that's what they're doing. They're making him his protege. That could lead to a jealousy angle too, maybe with Sammy Guevara. I don't know if fans are yearning for Guevara and MJF, but who knows?
I mean, yeah, we'll see where it goes. I think MJF joining the Inner Circle is definitely something that it makes sense in that case. I am honestly the bigger question I have is Wardlow going to be part of the Inner Circle? We had the debut of Wardlow. I'm going to be honest, I didn't quite hear commentary when I was watching the show. I swear to you, I thought his name was Warloaf, and I thought that was the greatest. I thought that was the greatest name I've ever heard in
Does
my
he
life.
come with gravy on the side or on?
I mean, did you see that suit? That dude's dripping in gravy.
I'd shout out to Rocky Baya. He went out of his way this week, Colin, to DM me for us to talk about Wardlow on the show. Rocky, I'm sorry. My thing is, I don't know a lot about him. I know that
I know nothing about this man.
it's a good look for MJF as a package, as like the bruiser.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that like they're bringing him in that because like kind of like MJF was kind of like Cody's security guard in a way, and now MJF has his own guy to kind of like look after him. At least that's how it seemed to play out for me, at least. But yeah, no, when the Vengeance for him started airing, I was like, I have no idea who this guy is. Never heard of him in my life. And then when he debuted, I thought his fucking name was Warloaf, and then someone on Twitter, God bless them, corrected me and said Wardlow, and I'm like, oh, that's worse, but I can work with it. I like Warloaf. I was already going to Pro Wrestling Tees and looking up that name to buy a shirt. I was calling my tattoo artist. I'm like, hey, I got this name. I got to put on me real quick.
Jesus
I
Christ.
loved it. And then, yeah, it worked out. They choked Cody Rhodes at the tie. A lot of throwing people over the ropes and choking them with something this last couple of weeks. They did it in the death match with Moxley and Omega with the chains. Now they did it with Cody and his tie and everything like that. And I mean, it's a good thing the same people are in charge, or Chris Jericho would be fired like Daniel Bryan was. But I bet Justin Roberts was at ringside having PTSD about that moment.
From all the therapy for him being a pedophile, apparently.
Right, yes, thank you, Jim.
You should still get the Warloaf tattoo, by the way, and just get like a meatloaf as a tank, like on your ankle.
I'll get Meatloaf, but as
shooting gravy.
I'll get Meatloaf in the shape of a tank, but it's actually the face of the singer Meatloaf.
So it's like his face in the shape of a foot, kind of, because a meatloaf looks like a foot in a way, like a
No,
hunk.
no, it's his face in the shape of a tank shooting out gravy.
Best episode ever. That's why you guys tune in for Gravy Ref. That's what you got, Rocky. That's what you when you guys go out of your way to ask me to request something for the show. That's what you get: tank meatloafs and gravy.
I guarantee you though, at least somewhere, it's probably you. At least someone watching, or maybe you were just like, I didn't think he even knew who the fuck Meatloaf was, but I gotcha.
I'm impressed.
I can make the old references every now and then. I can pop people sometimes.
Did you like him in Rocky Horror Picture Show, Colin?
Dude, I love the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Give me fucking Tim Curry all day.
There you go. I wish Tim Curry would have been like a guest general manager on Raw at least once.
That would have been the funniest fucking thing ever.
What if AEW brings him in now and he's their authority figure?
I think Tim Curry wheeling himself out of the wheelchair, talking like a stroke victim, just telling Adam Page and whoever he's feuding with, just like, all right, you guys are going one-on-one with the Undertaker. I'm sorry, wrong person. Never mind. What's next?
Jesus Christ. I was going to make a reference like the slow Home Alone 2 smile, but you fucked all that up.
That's what I'm here for.
Adam Page had a match again.
Yes, he did. Him and Pac. I was a bit weary about this one. I was like, well, I just watched these two a few days ago.
Same. I'm a little burnt out on it right now.
Yeah, a little bit. They fought each other quite a bit, and like I don't mind it. One of my biggest complaints with like the WWE 2K like story modes is like whoever you're feuding with, you always face that person every single week, and I hate it. And this kind of reminds me of that. It's like, yeah, I get that they're feuding, but they don't need to face each other every single week, especially when, like, I'm pretty sure with Page winning the match, it's like, I think that was the one-up on Pac he needed. Boom, the thing is over. Now, Pac gets the win back by killing Adam Page in the middle of the ring. It's like, I guess we're keeping this going for at least another pay-per-view.
Where are all the diehard AEW fans now bitching about even Steven booking in WWE? Where are they at? I don't hear them. I'm just saying. I don't really want to talk about it anymore. I feel like we got all the juice out of that lemon earlier. It's pretty much rinse and repeat. Just flip the finish.
Like, they'll have another match. Eventually one of them will finally win the feud, and yeah, I'm sure the match will be fine. But yeah, I mean, whatever we said about the match they had at Full Gear is the same thing we can apply here. It was good. Page won, or Pac won. Fuck it, you know what I mean.
Yeah, the matches are all good. It's just it's starting to feel like I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to get on a downer here. The Young Bucks and PNP brought all over the fucking place. I know that. It started off like a hardcore 24/7 title match, kind of.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a beatdown. It definitely a lot of the matches from Full Gear seem to like a lot of those feuds seem to be keeping going. Like it seems like they're just keeping everything progressing it a little bit. And like, I mean, I complained earlier that there's no long-term booking, so I suppose I can't really complain that they're at least keeping some things going from the show. But yeah, no, Santana Ortiz fucking demolished the Young Bucks. Yeah, it was. They had a sock full of baseball bats baseball bats. That's a long sock. I've been fucking up a lot today. I guess I missed 1 week, Jesus. And I haven't been training, so I guess
ring rust.
Ring rust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the sock full of baseballs, just beating the shit out of Nick. One of the biggest pops of the night. One of the Ortiz, Santana. I don't know the difference between. I can tell you which one of the Bucks is who. I can't tell you which one is Santana and which one is Ortiz. I don't get it. Sue me. But one of them sends. I don't know which Buck it was, to be perfectly honest. Not because I can't tell the difference, just because I don't remember. But one of them shoves it in the closet.
They got you.
I mean, I gotta keep this persona, man. You get it. Shoves him through this bathroom door. There's freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy just chilling there. One of the biggest pops of the night.
Squeezing out every drop of that racist radish.
What?
You couldn't tell the difference. It was the PNP thing.
Oh, gotcha.
Whoopsie daisy. No, and also on the long-term booking thing, people, it's been around for what, 6 fucking weeks? Come on, long-term booking.
Right.
No, I'm with you though. It was I get confused too. I'm not gonna lie. It could be. It's kind of like with the Usos and kind of a lot of, but I feel like that makes for some of the best tag teams sometimes. The ones that are so cohesive as a unit that it's hard to tell the difference. I love that sometimes in a tag team, you know?
For sure, for sure. And one of the guys who made the save was Brandon Cutler, a name we don't see too often, but we know the story behind him at least, and so it's cool to see him. Like it makes sense. Him and the Bucks have a friendship. He has a friendship with the elite. Like they gave him this contract and put their money on him, and so it's cool to see them kind of like bring that consistency into it. Like, okay, these are my friends. I'm going to go try and save them. It didn't last long, and Santana and Ortiz still beat the shit out of them.
It's
But it's
like
nice to see they have some backup.
it's like Cutler is Zack Ryder and the Bucks are John Cena back in like 2012, all over
Exactly.
again.
And then eventually the Bucks are going to fuck whoever Brandon Cutler's love interest is, and then that'll be ruined.
I could see Cutler eventually turning heel, and they can make that a storyline too. That well, the Bucks gave him his job pretty much, or got him in here, and how dare he? Just for something for Cutler to do, because right now he's just cannon fodder. He's a jobber. Let's say it. No disrespect. That's his role.
Basically. You could have put him in the triple threat match with Peter Avalon, and Peter Avalon could have saved the Young Bucks, and it wouldn't have made any lick of difference for the most part.
Do you have to say Avalon? Who are you,
Isn't that
Logan?
isn't that how his name is
It's
pronounced?
Avalon. Peter Avalon.
Oh fuck, I don't know.
You said Pack earlier, then you said Pac. I wish you'd make up your mind on your. It's West Coast people. You silly, silly geese.
It's the California accent. What can I say?
All that sun and fun's gone to your head, and we're rounding the corner here, getting towards the end here. Dynamite main event, right? Tag team title match. Well, there was a women's match also. I didn't really watch it though. That's the thing.
Was there? Wasn't the only women's match between Nyla Rose and Danny Jordan?
I could have maybe I'm mixing up AEW Dark. That's also becoming a problem too. Like some things that happen on. I think there was a four corner women's match on Dark or some shit. I don't fucking know. It doesn't matter. Let's just talk about the main event because it's 2:30 in the morning here, Colin. Let's take it home. I was surprised at how entertaining Guevara and Jericho were as a team. By the way, they're taking on SCU, the champs here, for the title, which just came out of nowhere.
It was definitely a bit strange to see at least Jericho in that position. I mean, they could have put Hager and Guevara, and it would have made sense because they're the two guys that's like, okay, it's Jericho is the world champion. But my first question was like, why wouldn't they put?
PMP.
Yeah, exactly. Like that makes the most sense. They're the tag team in this faction, so it would make sense to do that. But they put Jericho and Guevara in there, and I mean, wasn't a bad match at all. And yeah, I'm surprised how well Jericho and Guevara work together. Like their friendship and their, how they portray their characters together, it works out really well.
I didn't hate it. I loved the little pose too, like the little, on the chin when they leaned on him.
Exactly.
This match, it wasn't tremendous. It did what it did. It was
Yeah, I give it a B. Wasn't awful. Wasn't one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. Don't remember really much from it. I'd say the biggest thing. I mean, to be fair, there was a point where I'm like, are Jericho and Guevara going to take this? Like, they got me a couple of times with it. But I think the biggest thing coming from this match is the fact that Scorpio Sky pins Chris Jericho to retain the belts.
Now, AEW this past week, Collins put out their official rankings on like their site and all that stuff. Now, kind of like what I've been talking about from the beginning. I'm finally getting my wish, like the NWA used to do back in the late '80s, right? They're really behind All Matches Matter. I feel like Scorpio Sky, he's been the MVP of all these tag matches. They went all the way in the tournament. More times than not, it was him. Is this another way of making a new star? Was this whole match a vehicle to get people behind SCU more and get them? What was this? I was really shocked, and I'll be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued as to why it was Scorpio Sky winning like this. By the way, that was pretty much clean, completely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was one of those like roll up finishes where it's like it's one of those good like caught off guard type kind of things. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think they're building Scorpio Sky to be that, that breakout single star. And I think if they go the route of New Japan, where if one of the champions gets pinned in a tag team match or in one of their tournaments, stuff like that, then whoever pins them gets a title shot. And I think they're heading towards giving Scorpio Sky a title shot on an episode of Dynamite, which would be really cool. I certainly don't think he'd win, obviously, but it'd be a great match to showcase Scorpio Sky, especially in that level, feuding for the world title with Chris Jericho.
Yeah. And there's worse guys they could go with, and I wouldn't put Moxley in that position with Jericho right now. And like you said, it's Dynamite. We got a while till the next big pay-per-view or whatever. So, of course, Dynamite's got to be the go-to, just like they're doing with Darby Allin this coming week. That's why they're doing stuff like that. They got to have people a big reason to tune in, give them the big fights for free on TV. And essentially, hopefully for them, that'll lead to more buys on pay-per-view because you're filtering in brand new eyes. Buzz, God forbid.
Exactly.
Yeah. What did you think of Dynamite this week as a whole, Colin?
At first, I thought it felt more like one of those filler shows, but I mean, it eventually picked up. Yeah, I'd give it a B plus, A minus, somewhere in between that. Not a bad show at all. There hasn't been a bad show of Dynamite yet. We can count forever on how many times we've said, "Oh, this episode of Raw sucked," or "Oh, SmackDown was awful." There hasn't been a bad episode of Dynamite yet. Now they are only, 6 weeks old. There's plenty of time for them to fuck up. But in the meantime, their shows have been fantastic, and as the ratings show, they almost broke 1 million again. They were about 300,000 in front of NXT, so fans are clearly, seeing that as well. So, yeah, thumbs up for me.
Always appreciate wrestling when it's good and always stop. And it's just the focusing on when it's bad is going to take away from that. Just got to chill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a B minus simply because a lot of these matches were very underwhelming. It was a good show, but in ring wise, not great. In the Hangman Page stuff, I zoned out kind of like we were saying earlier, just because we're getting the same match kind of on repeat now.
It was definitely a show to build storylines in and keep them going, and next week will be the show where they're putting a little more effort into it, but still not a bad show.
Bottom line, the best 2 segments on this show this week had Chris Jericho in them for me.
Yep, absolutely.
Again. Colin! Go good.
Chris Jericho's said it for years now, and he just proves it every time he's there. He's one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time.
One more time, where can everyone catch you on Twitter?
I really need to find a second and third thing to advertise because it always comes off as awkward. Follow me on Twitter @OvertimeGuy. That's it. That's all I got.
Don't you have a TikTok or something?
I do.
You always talk my ear off about it off air. You might as well.
Oh, don't word them like that. No, I don't. I'll send you the link later.
Oh. Colin, man, thank you again for doing this. Going out of your way to talk some AEW. I feel like we did double duty again. Because we did.
Next week we'll be back to doing one show. I'm sure this has probably been our longest show. We're not trying to certainly get. I mean, it astounds me every single week how we manage to make our shows maybe a little more than an hour, and yet we could talk. We one time had a 3-hour show on just a basic episode of 205 Live.
We could go 4 hours on Papa Shango easily.
What? Absolutely.
Just every gimmick throughout Charles Wright's career is an hour. So you got Kama, Papa Shango, Godfather. See? Boom. Right to Censor, Good Father. There's an hour.
Have you done the Hibiki spotlight on Papa Shango yet?
Oh, so many brainstorms going in my head, and I feel like if I say anything else, that's going to be a spoiler for what I know you're thinking. So leave that
Fair
for.
enough.
If they made it this long in the episode, I guess they deserve to know anyway. We should do a high spots on that.
Absolutely.
On Twitter @the Hibiki TMD, UnionSmack.BigCartel.com, the official Hibiki TMD store. Also check out Matt's book, my co-host on Union Smack. Never drew a dime. Catch me also at ProWrestlingJournal.com. This, The Alternative, the reset button. So much goodness. Man, thank you again, Colin. The Alternative. See you again right here next week.